guys, I'm Tiffany.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're
Sisters of the South.
back with another true crime story for you today. But before we get started, we just want to remind everyone to please hit that like button if you like our video, subscribe for more true crime content every week, and hit that little notification bell so you know when the sisters are back with a new story. And we also need to give a little shout out to our friends over at SoFly.
SoFly!
SoFly!
Not so small!
Not no more,
Yeah.
And I'm going to let Stephanie tell you all about them now.
So SoFly is a family-owned company here in the Houston, Texas area, and what they'll do is take an accessory such as a cap, a hoodie, a t-shirt,
A jacket.
yes, a purse. They'll even do tumblers, and they will put your logo, your initials, your name, whatever you want in any color, and they will specialize it to your needs.
Trust us,
Oh.
we have gotten it all.
It's beautiful, and I think it's worth a try at least one time because you'll become addicted
Of
and you'll
course.
be personalizing everything you own. But you got to try them out. But we want to show you just how badass they are. So here's a video.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that video. Go check them out. Let them know we sent you. If you buy something, send us a picture because we're always looking for something new. And with all of that being said, oh, no. We will
I'm curious.
we will put their information in the description box so that you can find them.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to find them to be able to purchase. So
It's the only way it works.
we will enter their information below.
But with all of that being said, I'm going to give it over to Stephanie to tell you about this story.
Yeah, so here we go. We're going to talk today about Sherri Rasmussen. Sherri was born on February 7th, 1957 in Walla Walla, Washington to Nels and Loretta, and was raised in Arizona. Sherri was the middle child of 3 daughters and was athletic, tall, and very smart. Sherri began college at La Sierra University at 16 after skipping 2 grades in high school and graduating from Thunderbird Adventist Academy.
Wow.
Skipped 2 grades.
That's insane.
She lived with purpose.
Yeah.
For sure, right?
I didn't do that.
At 16? Like,
man, I was like, driver's license, car, friends.
right?
Who cares
Going
about
out
school?
for coffee. Yeah. Well, me at 16, I was a mother.
True.
I mean, and I lived with purpose, but I know
it was a different kind of purpose.
The different kind of purpose when you're 16 and when you're an adult. So I was super astonished. I'm like, man, this girl had it going on, right?
I wish.
Yeah, so after her freshman year in college, she was accepted at Linda's nursing program and transferred there. There wasn't much Sherri couldn't do. Sherri's worried parents helped her buy a condo in Van Nuys in a gated complex with secure parking to ease their fears about the bustling city of Los Angeles. And I can see that because LA's known for their crime.
Oh, yeah. And she's so young.
Yeah, super young. They probably weren't quite ready to let her go yet.
Of course not.
You know, I mean, at 16, 17, 18, you still want to hold on to those ropes. Yeah. But she obviously lived with purpose. So they trusted that. They just kind of kept her safe during that time. As a nurse, Sherri quickly rose through the ranks, first becoming a nurse supervisor before taking a job at the age of 27 as the director of nursing at Glendale Adventist Hospital. Her career wasn't the only thing falling into place, though. Sherri had always longed for a family of her own and finally met the man of her dreams at a party. She became smitten with John Rutan, a young engineer. By November of 1985, Sherri and John were married.
Finally, she finally met the man of her dreams. She was so young, really, but I guess when you
Graduate at
Graduate at
16?
16 and go to college. That's a long time,
It
right?
is. Yeah, because they're probably like, man, she'll probably be married by the time she's 22 or 23. And then here she is 27, and they're like, what's taking her so long? She's been bulldozing through everything. What's taking so long?
Poor thing.
Sweet thing. Listen, she had to build up her confidence in her career, I'm sure, and she had places to be there. It was a calling.
Yeah.
So she let marriage sit on the back burner until she knew she found the right person in her mind at that time. So on February 24th, 1986, Sherri's body was found in the apartment she shared with John in the Van Nuys neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. She had been beaten and shot 3 times. The Los Angeles Police Department initially considered the case a botched burglary and were unable to identify a suspect. Rosamond's father believed that LAPD officer Stephanie Lazarus, formerly in a relationship with Sherri's husband, was a prime suspect due to her continuing attraction to him and confrontations with his daughter. The investigation stalled after several months, and the case remained cold 4 years.
It's hard to go after
hmm
someone in the police department.
Yeah, law enforcement. They don't want to look at the other or within
No.
their own home, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a brotherhood, sisterhood thing. And I understand that.
Yeah.
I do. But at the same time, at least look into it.
Well, yeah.
But I'm sure it's kind of a conflict of interest, and it could stir up some emotions within the departments. So you know, I don't blame her dad. I'd have probably been yelling it from the rooftops, but there wasn't any social media back then. So things are handled differently now
Yeah.
than
So
they
where
were.
do you go?
Yeah. Not only that, he's accusing a police officer of possibly murdering his daughter. So then him and his family could possibly be in danger because of that.
True.
So he's putting himself out there. He probably didn't care,
Well,
but I'm sure
no,
it
I
crossed
wouldn't
his
either,
mind.
honestly.
Yeah. Detectives who re examined the files in 2009 focused on Lazarus. By then, a detective. So she climbed the ranks. I mean, she didn't stay a police officer. She moved up the ranks and eventually became a detective at LAPD. A covertly taken DNA sample was matched to one from a bite on Sherri's body that remained in the files. Lazarus was convicted of first-degree murder in 2012 and is serving a sentence of 27 years to life at the California Institution for Women in Chino. Lazarus appealed the conviction. Well, of course she did.
Why not?
I mean, that's what our justice system is about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you get convicted, let's bring on the appeals. She was claiming the age of the case and the evidence denied her due process. She also alleged that the search warrant was improperly granted, her statements in an interview prior to her arrest were compelled, and that evidence supporting the original case theory should have been admitted at trial. In 2015, the verdict was upheld. During a 2023 parole hearing, Lazarus confessed to the crime. The panel hearing her request initially granted it, but it was rescinded by the full board late in 2024. The police files suggest that evidence that could have implicated Lazarus early in the investigation was later removed or possibly tampered with.
Well, of course.
Yeah, and we could only guess who that would have been by, you know?
Yeah.
Lazarus herself plausibly had access to the files during the 1990s. Other LAPD officers may have been involved. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think any other police officer was involved.
Oh, I'm pretty
Listen,
sure 100% she did all of that.
100%.
Why wouldn't she?
Why would any police officer risk his whole livelihood and career on her murdering her ex-boyfriend's wife? Why? And then then too many people would know.
Yeah.
She don't want too many
Plus,
she
she's
don't
got
want
her
anyone
hands
to know.
in it anyway.
Yeah.
Why would she need someone else?
And no one's suspecting her, so why not do it? So Sherri's parents unsuccessfully sued the department over this and other aspects of the investigation. Jennifer Francis, the criminalist who found key DNA evidence from the bite mark, unsuccessfully sued the city of Los Angeles. She claimed that she had been pressured by police to favor certain suspects in this and other high-profile cases and faced retaliation for bringing this to the department's attention. So, not only is the Rasmussens possibly going to be, looked at in a bad light because they're saying this about LAPD, but then other people that bring this crime to light, now they're being retaliated against, because one of their own
It doesn't
is
surprise
being,
me, though.
well,
Sadly, it
yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
Well, we kind of know that most criminals, if they're smart, intelligent, or have any type of intelligence, a lot of them do go into police careers, investigating careers, maybe attorneys. They're going to go into law enforcement area. A lot of them do. That way they have more power over their own crimes they commit. And so time and time again, you see that maybe they were a security guard or, maybe they were a police officer, in this case a detective, and they have more control over the narrative. They can get rid of files, or they can kind of guide in a different direction so it doesn't point directly to them.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, other people who shed light on that darkness, well, they get shot down. While an undergraduate at the University of California, Los Angeles from 1978 to 1982, John Bruton, a mechanical engineering major from San Diego, occasionally dated Stephanie Lazarus. Their friends said she seemed to take the relationship more seriously than John did. Both were avid athletes. Lazarus played on UCLA's junior varsity women's basketball team. Lazarus would steal Rutan's clothes when he showered and take photographs of him in his underwear while he slept. Now
Oh, what?
that's pretty aggressive and
That's
weird,
weird.
right? Like, that's not a feminine energy. That's
At all.
no, that sounds, I don't know. That's a red flag
That
with
is
another.
creepy.
That's like 3 or 4 of these red flags. Now, if a man does it, we're like, what the hell, this dude. But when a woman does it, automatically know she's cuckoo. Okay? That's not normal.
No.
It's not normal. And what do you do? I mean, are you looking at them after you take them? I mean, I understand being enamored by, your boyfriend's good looks or whatever, but to take, and back then it's not on your phone, not like you can click it and it's in
No,
your
you have
phone.
to go get them developed.
Yeah, you had to go get them developed. And it's like, are you putting them in frames in your room? What are you doing with these pictures? It's so weird to me. I mean, I hate to get off on a tangent, and this would be one of them, but that to me kind of starts building her character
Well, and they're
to me.
casually dating. It's not like they're
In love.
in love.
She was, I think, but he was just wanting to get laid.
Of course.
Because if you ultimately look at Sherri versus Stephanie and their looks, he obviously wanted that girl next door, sweet and beautiful young lady. I mean, that's obviously what he
Right.
was
And she
drawn
was
to.
just available at the time.
And she was just desperate. Like, God.
She was available.
Yeah. Anyway, y'all, that just grossed me out. But anyway, Rutan never considered the relationship as anything more than necking and fooling around. They had sex for the first time after he graduated. After that, they saw each other 2 or 3 times a month, occasionally taking trips together. Some of those encounters resulted in sex.
Of course.
Following his 1981 graduation, Rutan accepted a job with Data Products, a maker of computer peripherals. Lazarus, graduating a year later, briefly worked as a filing clerk at a law firm as she was contemplating law school. but then realized the legal profession was too difficult for her.
Okay.
I mean, let's be honest, to be an attorney, it's quite taxing and it takes a lot of time and you have to be really smart. And so I guess at some point she realized I'm not really that smart. So she moved on to, I guess, police work. She was admitted to, and let me back up on that. Not saying that police officers aren't smart. I'm saying this specifically for Stephanie. Okay, not policemen.
It was less school time.
Yeah, it was less school time. I'm just saying
Less
she
work.
realized she wasn't smart enough. She had to find something probably more interesting to her than studying law and law enforcement. She'd rather enforce it than to,
She just found a different
venue.
part
Or,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
She was admitted to the city's police academy at a time when the Los Angeles Police Department was stepping up efforts to increase the amount of women on the force in response to a consent decree following a sex discrimination lawsuit brought by former female officers. After completing a special 8-week pre-academy training program, she graduated and became a uniformed officer in 1983. Male and female classmates recalled that she was particularly tenacious during a physical combat training, especially in exercises where trainees had to retain control of a weapon. So manly.
Yeah.
I mean, really. Which hence the photos with him in his underwear. So during her police training, Lazarus described Rutan as her college boyfriend, and she was his date at Data Products' 1983 Christmas party, where they had a photo taken together. He later testified that they had sex 20 to 30 times between 1981 and 1984, but that he never considered her his girlfriend.
He counted?
I was just thinking that because,
That's odd.
I mean, he's probably guessing, but still, are you
Yeah, but
putting
that's
it down
3
on your
years.
calendar? Yeah, I mean, are you putting it on your calendar? And to me, 20 or 30 times over a couple of years, you're in a relationship with that person. It may be complicated, but you're in a relationship with that person. And to be honest, and I'm not defending Stephanie Lazarus at all, but to I guess if I was in her shoes, I would probably think we were in a relationship too.
Yeah,
Although
but you
it
don't
be,
see each other very often. How are you in a relationship, an actual relationship with someone that you don't see very often?
no, I
And
get
he's
that.
plus, okay, maybe he is one of those guys that acts like they're together when they're together and not when they're not,
Yes.
but she had to kind of guess. I mean, there had to be something.
Well, obviously, Stephanie lied to herself about a lot of things, honestly. But I think that a lot of females, and this is a reality, think that, oh, we're having sex, we're in a relationship, and men don't think like that.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, now Stephanie Lazarus is a little bit older at this point in time, so she should kind of get it, especially working around men like she does, that,
Right.
hey, this is just fun. And, we're just gonna, you know, roll around in the hay and then move on. And if someone else better comes along, good. And if not, I'll just, have fun until we don't have fun anymore. But I think obviously she was a little disturbed and obviously was in love with this guy. I really think she was, that she just couldn't see it. She was lying to herself about his intention. Um, Again, doesn't excuse anything that she did. I just think that, I really think that. But upon her graduation from the police academy, Lazarus settled in at Granada Hills condo and purchased a .38 caliber revolver through the department as her backup firearm. Rutan later met Sherri. After her degree, Sherri was promoted to head nurse at UCLA's coronary care and observation unit. She also was appointed an unpaid assistant clinical profession of nursing, giving lectures to students. By her late 20s, Sherri was the director of nursing at Glendale Adventist Medical Center. She also gave presentations and taught classes for fellow nurses. And see, Sherri is focused.
Oh, absolutely.
And she knows what she wants. She goes and gets it. And I think nursing is her calling. And she just feels the need to share it with everyone that she can to educate them. And I just, man, I hate that the story goes the way that it goes for this young lady. At a June 1984 party with a Roaring Twenties theme, Sherri met Rutan. The two started dating shortly afterwards.
Now, I do have to ask, and it may be in this story, but he's still seeing Stephanie Lazarus, right? So how did he handle that situation? Like, oh, she'll get it. I'm seeing someone else. Or did he be a man and tell her, hey, I met someone?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay, of course.
He didn't handle it like a man.
Oh, of course, because
He's acting like a boy. I mean, he looks like a man. He's aged like a man, but he doesn't handle shit like a man. Well, I'm going to be honest. I think at this point, John pretty much figures out Stephanie is a couple of French fries short of a Happy Meal, and he's probably scared to confront her.
But we will get there. You need to break things off.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel like he should have felt that way way before. But of course, we all know these men and women, that, I'm getting laid here and there. I may as well just keep her around and not deal with the drama.
Yeah. Well,
the drama always comes back around.
Well,
guys.
it did. It did in this case. For her first assignment as a uniformed LA police officer, Lazarus drew the Hollywood Division, an area notorious at the time for high levels of street crime. Morale among the predominantly male officers was poor in the wake of the Hollywood burglars scandal, in which 14 officers were ultimately fired after 2 were prosecuted for burglarizing video stores while on duty. Here, hence again, you've got crime within the police department, and they probably just didn't want another person going down because they are already looking bad. I mean, LAPD is not known for their morals. Okay, let's just say that. All the way across the board. There's cases after this one that they still made bad decisions. So they're not known for morality. That's for sure. So Chief Daryl Gates closely oversaw the internal affairs investigation. He observed later that Hollywood seemed to have a higher rate of police misconduct than any other division. There is something about the place, he wrote, an almost carnival atmosphere that suggests here anything goes. A female colleague of Lazarus at Hollywood and teammate on the department's women's basketball team, one of the few other women in the division, recalls her as being an asset to the team primarily through her tight and physical defensive play with the willingness to work with others. She observed that women who were successful LAPD officers in that era, like Lazarus, primarily had significant experience playing organized team sports since they were not intimidated by the physical fitness requirements and understood the value of teamwork. And I have read quite a bit on Stephanie Lazarus, and people really liked her. I think because she was very assertive in the way she handled herself. And let's be honest, as a police officer in a high crime area, regardless of whether you're a woman or a man, you have to be tough.
Well, yeah.
I get that. I think she already had that prior to becoming a police officer. And so I understand a level of aggressiveness that she needed to have, and a level of toughness. But I think that she already had that grit prior to becoming a police officer. It seems like she handled it very well with her teammates and with the people that she worked with and that she surrounded herself with. Um, but she made some really bad choices at the same time, some
Right.
really bad choices. So teamwork at Hollywood went further than the requirements of the job. Officers upheld the blue wall of silence in the face of misconduct investigations, regularly telling each other to admit nothing, deny everything, demand proof. A diary Lazarus began keeping while working at Hollywood documents her accuration to the department, showing her increasingly identifying with the LAPD above all, accepted by fellow officers for her efforts to fit in, and maintaining a detached, often nonchalant attitude when responding to sometimes brutal crimes and their traumatized victims. Lazarus told a friend that her training officer, James Tomer, propositioned her for sex. Her repeated refusals led to workplace rumors and that she was a lesbian. Later, Tomer faced departmental charges of narcotics theft. Lazarus was called to testify at his disciplinarian hearing. Tomer was acquitted and later won a verdict against her department over the charges in federal court, arguing he had been framed, the first time the department had been successfully sued over an internal affairs investigation. The verdict was later overturned on appeal, which it doesn't surprise me.
No.
But after a year on probation, she was promoted and transferred to the quieter Devonshire Division, covering Northridge, Chatworth, and Granada Hills in March 1985. She rented the spare bedroom in her condo to a fellow former officer. Lazarus had thrown Rutan a surprise party on his 25th birthday, unaware that he had been dating other women or that he had developed a serious relationship with Wasserman.
There you go.
So, yeah, he's over here still partying it up, right? You know, he wants to tie down Sherri because he knows. Listen, he knows that woman's a winner. Like,
yeah.
he don't want her to get away. She lives with purpose. That's what he wants. He's not ready to settle down, but he wants her to settle down with him, right? And so he's just living it up. In a May diary entry, she mentions visiting Rutan and his girlfriend the first time she met Rasmussen. The following month, Lazarus was depressed after learning that Rutan and Rasmussen had become engaged a week earlier. And again, why is she visiting him and his girlfriend?
Okay, I don't know because I wouldn't be doing that. But
No.
I do have to say I feel for her because she has feelings for this man
Yeah.
who literally just like,
Look what I got.
yeah,
See, I found a shiny new thing. Look how pretty she is.
never even thought about her feelings
Mm-mm.
or anything about her, really.
No. And that's what I'm saying. There's a part of me that feels bad for Stephanie. And because I think she's madly in love with this guy and he's just into him. They're just screwing around,
Yeah,
but he had to
he had to
know.
have known she was in love with him. He had
Exactly.
to.
There's no way.
I'm sure we've all been in those situations where someone cares more
Yes.
about you than you do for them.
Yes.
You can feel that.
Yes.
I know he knew that.
Instead of having a conversation with her about that, he just introduces his new girlfriend, and then a month later, hey, we're engaged. So in her diary, she wrote, I really don't feel like working. I found out that John is getting married. My concentration is like a -10. Later that night, she awoke a fellow officer she roomed with to commiserate. He recalled later that he had never seen her cry until that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, which is sad because this is a tough cookie, right? She's aggressive. She's got grit. She's a tough woman. And she has these feelings for John, and he could give a shit less. he's moving on. And so I'm sure it broke her. I'm sure it shattered her. Lazarus visited Rutan at his condo later that month, shortly before he moved in with his fiancée. The two had sex to give her closure.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
of
because
course.
everybody
I'm
needs
sure it was all
closure.
just for her closure.
Yes, just for her closure. Okay, not him. He could have cared
I
less.
just pulled her in a little bit more. Are you kidding me?
So now do you see why I say that he looks like a man, but he acts like a boy?
Well, yeah.
He can't even maturely think this through and go, if I have sex with her, she's going to think that there's still more here.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he didn't say, well, we can have sex for your closure.
Yes.
Just one last time for you. I'm thinking of you.
No, absolutely
That was not a conversation.
It's ridiculous. And so you have to kind of think, dude, you kind of did this to yourself. And I'm not victim shaming, and I'm not even victim blaming, okay? Because majority of us would just, move on. We would show our ass, and then we would just move on. We wouldn't go back and do what Stephanie did to Sherri. But what I'm saying is, he set it up. He already knew. I'm serious. I believe he already knew that Sherri was a little bit off. Okay. I do think that he knew that. But then don't go back and have closure sex. And as a matter of fact, don't even contact her other than to say, hey, we're done. But he didn't.
Yeah, he should have cut that off
Absolutely.
way earlier.
Absolutely.
Really.
So Rutan testified years later for what he says was the only time before Sherri's death. He did not tell her about the encounter. Lazarus was still not over Rutan. I mean, obviously. If she was over him, she would not have had sex with him, and he wouldn't have had sex with her. I mean, this is just it's a bad deal. In August, she wrote to his mother, I'm truly in love with John, and the past year has really torn me up. I wish it didn't end the way it did, and I don't think I'll ever understand his decision. An LAPD women's basketball teammate at the California Police Olympics around that time recalls Lazarus mentioning a boyfriend from UCLA named John.
Wait, his mom?
Yes. She had to my gathering with all the research, she had a close relationship with John's family, and specifically his sister.
That's why she thought she was in a relationship with him.
Yeah. Yeah, they would visit his family. And she knew them.
Oh.
So it wasn't just they would meet up and go on trips. She literally
is
knew
part
his
of the family.
Yeah. Right? And so now she's so confused. And what does John's mother say? That's such an awkward situation. I would have called my son up and kind of laid into him at that point.
I was going to say, yeah, what would you do to your boys?
I mean, it's not your place as a mother to step in, but I would be so disappointed.
Yeah, but she's
I would have to
contacting
say
her.
something.
She's putting you in the middle.
Right. I mean, you'd have to. You would feel so responsible
Like, can
for
you
raising
take care of this?
Yeah, for raising this man child.
Yeah.
That he can get his shit together. And then not to mention John is with Sherri, and she's a really good girl. And as a mom, I would think, listen, John, you're fixing to fuck this shit up. You better straighten it up and get it together and cut this shit off now.
Yep.
That's probably exactly what I'd say to my kid.
I'm sure that's what
it's just like, get it together.
I can hear that.
Yes. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. So sometime in July or August, on a day off, Lazarus visited Sherri at work wearing tight short shorts and a tank top. Lazarus told her that she and John were still having sex and that when their marriage failed, I'll be there to pick up the pieces.
Well, you know what? You can just have him now.
See, yes. Yes.
More power to you, baby. He's yours.
But not Sherri. She responded, your services won't be needed.
Wow. What is it about this man?
I know,
They're
right?
all just like,
But
I
then,
don't care how many women he's got. I will be there for him.
but you also have to think this. It sounds like Sherri was such an eloquent lady, right? And you it's a different
Yeah,
generation,
I
right?
get
Like,
that.
stand by your man, okay? I don't
Yeah.
care if 15 Stephanie Lazaruses come in here and tell me they're having sex with my husband. I'm just going to politely decline and say your services aren't needed, and I'm sticking by John.
Yeah, I'm not that person.
I'm not that person either. As a matter of fact, I'd be like, okay, you know what? I'll pack his bags. You come pick him up on the street corner.
I'll have him ready by 7.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to
Let's do
feed him.
this.
You go ahead and get the meal together, take him out to dinner.
He is
He's
yours
yours now.
now.
I'm done. Like, I don't need his services anymore. I'm good.
Well, he's getting serviced everywhere, so have at it.
I mean, but anyway, Lazarus left saying, if I can't have John, no one else will, including you. While Sherri did not report the incident to the hospital security, she complained to her father about it and confronted Rutan when he returned home from work that evening. He admitted the infidelity and asked Sherri to forgive him, but did not contact Lazarus or take any action to prevent further contact, as from his perspective, any relationship with her was long over. John and Sherri married in November as planned. Her concerns about Lazarus lingered. Since Rutan had moved in with her, they had been receiving occasional hang-up calls, and before leaving on their honeymoon near the end of the year, the couple installed a burglar alarm in their condo. So Sherri was feeling threatened.
That's so sad. Why is he not at fault?
Exactly. And it almost makes you want to say there should be a law for someone who doesn't be proactive, not reactive. Because a lot of the time when we react to something, it's already too late. John had ample amount of opportunity to nip this shit in the bud, and he just didn't. Now, maybe he was very inexperienced with relationships with women. I don't know any of his previous relationship history or anything like that. Maybe this was his first time to have a woman head over heels in love with him like that.
But this woman showing up at your fiance's job.
Oh, I would be filing charges, but then
Yeah.
he's also probably worried they're not going to do anything because she's an officer. But
He's not
still,
even trying. He's not
no,
even trying to cut things off with her.
no,
That's the thing. Got engaged without talking to her,
yes,
never cut ties, and then slept with her again.
yes,
And if he saw her again, he would sleep with her again.
absolutely. I think he was scared of her.
Well,
I
probably.
think the bitch was like scared of her. I'm serious. I mean, he's like, damn, this is a manly chick right here. I stepped off in it. I mean, because I mean, it's true. I'm sorry. I mean, let's be honest. Stephanie was a manly chick, and so be it, you know. But I think it scared
It
him.
worked for her, obviously.
I mean, obviously, it did.
But come on.
I know. I know. He's still.
See, first of all, if I were Sherri, I wouldn't be with him anymore. Second of all, take care of this.
Yep, exactly. Well, Sherri set the alarm code as 1123, their wedding anniversary, which a friend advised her was a poor choice. Rutan left data products for Micropolis and hard drive manufacturing in Chatsworth. During late 1985, Lazarus had seemed to her friends and coworkers to be moving on from Rutan. She began working part-time security at Los Angeles Pierce College in Woodland Hills and dated a fitness instructor and a TV news cameraman. Near the end of the year, she drafted in her diary a personal ad. But in January, Lazarus brought her skis to the condo and asked Rutan to wax them. Despite Rasmussen's objections, he complied. See, I think he's scared of her. I'd have been like, get out. You are
Yeah.
not welcome here. But he complied. So Rasmussen felt that the visit and request was strange, especially since Lazarus was dressed in flattering workout clothes. After Lazarus left, Sherri asked her fiance if their relationship was truly over. Rutan convinced her the two were just friends. After failing to persuade her husband not to wax the skis and just return them, Rasmussen told him not to drop them off at Lazarus' apartment. A few days later, after Rutan had left for work, Lazarus returned to pick up the wax skis in her uniform and armed. She did not record either visits in her diary. I'm sorry. If I'd have been Sherri, I'd have taken those skis and busted them over his head. There wouldn't have been no, are y'all seeing each other? Is
Are
this
you
what's
sure
going
it's
on?
over, honey?
No,
No. Oh, no. No, no,
absolutely
no.
not. But again, I think Sherri was a lady and she wanted to see the best in John. I mean, obviously she married him, but obviously something's still going on.
Yeah, but she needs a little respect for herself. When it
Yes.
comes to that, she deserved better.
She deserved better than that. And she had all this faith in him. And he literally just, I, I hate to say it, I just don't think he cared. I think all he worried about was making Stephanie Lazarus mad. That's what I think.
He's worried about himself.
Yeah. So, on another occasion later that month, Sherri began confronting Lazarus when, after Rutan had gone to work one morning, Sherri found her in the couple's living room, again in uniform.
Oh, geez.
Lazarus left after being firmly asked. She told her father about the incident, but not Rutan, and did not believe reporting it to the police would be effective.
Why tell her husband about it? He's not going to do anything.
No. And at this point, neither of the police. So Lazarus did not record the incident in her diary. On a visit with her parents in Tucson in early February, Nels Rasmussen tried to persuade John to move there, assuring his son-in-law he could get him an engineering position through connections at Hughes Aircraft. Sherri again confided in her father after they returned to Los Angeles, telling him she feared that Lazarus was stalking her on the street, sometimes posing as a young man. Which, I mean, I told y'all she's a manly chick. I mean, it would be easy, but that's scary,
That's
right?
terrifying.
That
See, I would
is.
move. I would.
I would have packed my
You
bag
know
and just
what?
moved to my
Okay,
parents.
fine. I forgave you, but now it's time to
Yes.
do something. I'm moving. You can do what you want.
Yeah, because that's terrifying. I mean, this woman is showing up in your house just in uniform, which
Mhm.
means she had her gun and handcuffs on her. Sherri was also being confronted by a nurse who felt she had been passed over for promotion, and the woman's boyfriend was a cardiologist. The woman had called her several times. Sherri's car had been keyed at one point while parked in the hospital lot. She did not know by whom. Hospital security had granted her permission to park in a more secure lot as a result. On Valentine's Day that year, Lazarus' roommate moved out. A week later, on February 23rd, when one of Rutan's UCLA friends came for a visit, they used the front door to enter the condo, which he and Sherri rarely did. Because of that, Rutan neglected to lock it after the friend left. Yeah. On the morning of February 24th, 1986, Rutan left the couple's condominium on Balboa Boulevard at 7:20 a.m. for work. Rasmussen was scheduled to give a motivational speech at work that day, a managerial tactic she did not feel was effective. To avoid it, she told Rutan she might call in sick, using a back injury she had incurred while doing aerobics the day before as an excuse. After running some errands on his way, Rutan arrived at Micropolis a half hour after leaving home. At 9:45, a neighbor noticed that the Rutan's garage door was open with no car visible. Approximately 15 minutes later, Rutan made the first of several unanswered calls from home over the course of the day. He found it strange that the answering machine did not respond, since both of them turned it on when leaving the condo unoccupied. Rasmussen's sister, who worked as a nurse at another local hospital, also called, getting no answer. She says the answering machine picked up at one point and she left a message. At noon, two men who the neighbor believed were gardeners in the compound gave her and her husband a purse that they had found, which turned out to be Rasmussen's. A maid cleaning a nearby unit said she heard something that sounded like two people fighting and then something falling at around 12:30 p.m. When Rutan returned home in the evening, he found his garage door open and broken glass on the driveway. And I'm going to say this, like if I left my husband at home sick, and mind you, this is decades back, so there's no cell phones and there's no cameras in the house and things like that. But if I left him home sick and I was trying to call to check on him by noon at the latest, if he hasn't answered, I'm coming home on my lunch break to check on him. Because, I kept thinking about that because, my husband had a stroke and I worry about him all the time, but we have cameras inside where I can keep an eye and make sure he didn't fall or anything. But, I can text him. If he doesn't text me back in a reasonable amount of time, I'll get on the cameras to make sure he hasn't fallen or, maybe he's asleep. But they didn't have that back then.
Yeah, but she wasn't she was just gonna use that as an excuse, right? So she wasn't
Yeah.
actually sick, so maybe he's
But she
thinking
wasn't feeling it. Like she just wasn't
maybe
feeling
she
good.
was yeah, but she could have gone to run errands or you know
Well,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
it
She
dep
could have left the
yeah,
house.
that's
Again,
true.
there's no cell phones, like, she should be okay. She'll be back
Yeah.
in a little while.
Well, that's true. I guess maybe she just wasn't feeling it, not
Right,
feeling good.
right.
And so depending on
'Cause
his
sometimes even when I'm not feeling good, Target sounds amazing.
oh yeah, I feel good enough to do certain things all the time, no matter how
You
bad
know,
I'm feeling.
I love
And
me some
that's true.
Target, so I can always manage doing that. I have to be really sick.
And maybe his interaction with her that morning is, she's okay. She's
Right,
just don't feel like getting out of bed because some days we don't feel like getting out of bed,
right, yeah.
you know? Um, so Sherry's BMW 318i was missing. Because of Rasmussen's morning plans, he found it strange that she would have later gone out without letting him know. Inside, Rutan found Rasmussen dead on the living room floor, shot 3 times. There were signs of a struggle, such as a broken porcelain vase and a bloody handprint next to the burglar alarm's panic button, and a toppled credenza. It appeared that someone had attempted to bind Rasmussen at some point. She had defensive wounds and a bruise on her face that appeared to have been inflicted by the muzzle of a gun. The gun had been fired through a quilted blanket, apparently to muffle the sound. The investigating criminalist also observed a bite mark on Rasmussen's arm and took a swab from it for blood typing. And thank God they did that. Thank God.
Thank God there was a bite mark.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, because I'm sure Sherri put up a fight.
Oh, yeah.
LAPD detectives investigating the case quickly concluded that Sherri had been surprised and killed by a burglar. Sherri's attire, a bathrobe, nightgown, and underwear suggested she had not expected visitors. Although a maid in a neighboring unit reported hearing screaming and fighting earlier in the day, she did not recall hearing gunshots. She thought the whole event had been a domestic dispute and did not call the police. It appeared that the perpetrator had been in the process of taking the electronic equipment left in a stack at the base of the stairs when Rasmussen came upon them. Jewelry had been left behind and the vehicle taken as a getaway. The only other item that appeared to have been taken from the home was the couple's marriage license, which Sherri's mother believes she might have been carrying in her purse to facilitate consolidating her and Rutan's bank accounts. And so, I mean, you got to think it would definitely would lead back to Stephanie Lazarus, when investigating this. Once they decided they knew the relationship between John and Stephanie, that this has to be someone that is jealous. You know what I mean? To take a marriage license.
Yeah.
Lead detective Lyle Mayer did consider other possibilities. He quickly ruled out Rutan as a suspect. Nels Rasmussen and his wife Loretta told Mayer about Lazarus' harassment and saw that he made a note of it. Rutan later told police that he and Rasmussen had never discussed Lazarus. At a second interview the morning after the crime, Rutan said later that he told the detectives about Lazarus when they raised the possibility of a jealous former lover. However, he did not tell them about his final sexual encounter with her, nor the confrontation where she told Rasmussen about that liaison. Nels Rasmussen also told the police about her, but Mayer dismissed it, telling him that there's nothing there in his recollection. I mean,
why not tell everything?
yes. Why would you? I guess he didn't realize that Sherri had been sharing this information. But why wouldn't you? If you are not the person who caused Sherri's death,
throw it out there.
Why wouldn't you want to share that? Obviously, this woman had no good intent for Sherri. So why wouldn't you?
Well, yeah.
Because wouldn't your mind start running rampant on
He
who
may have
this could
felt
be?
guilty because he did
Hey,
nothing.
but wait, he's not done with her yet.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
So the police remained focused on the possibility of burglary, especially in light of one reported later in the same area, in which one of the two reported suspects had been carrying a gun, possibly a 38, like the one that had fired the 3 bullets into Rasmussen. The bullets were later identified by experts as federal 38J plus P. But for burglary, it had some atypical elements. Mayer noted that it was unusual for burglars to steal a car after the crime, own to load. They usually brought their own to load stolen goods into. To him, this meant that there were likely 2 burglars. His partner, Steve Hooks, found the bite mark unusual, as bites during struggles are much more commonly inflicted by women, and Ted Bundy. But anyway, while the majority of burglars are men. However, because men have bitten opportunities during fights as well, the burglary theory stood. An autopsy was performed on February 27th. The 3 bullets had been fired into Rasmussen's chest cavity, one from a gun pressed up against her skin. All inflicted injuries severe enough to have resulted in death by themselves shortly afterwards. I mean, anybody that's going to put a gun directly to your chest and pull the trigger, they know you're dead. I mean, that's the full intent. They're not there to hurt you, they're there to kill you.
Right.
The bullets were recovered. One was relatively deformed, making it more valuable as evidence. 15 separate injuries were noted on Rasmussen's face during the apparent muzzle bruise and the laceration of the frenulum between her upper lip and jaw, suggesting she was struck forcefully in that area. 11 days after Sherri's death on March 7th, her BMW was recovered after an officer saw it parked on the street near the intersection of Zumbar Avenue and Cohasset Street in a residential neighborhood roughly 2 miles east of the Rutan's condo. It was unlocked with the keys in the ignition. While crime scene technicians found some possible stains and fiber evidence in the car, along with 4 fingerprints that were neither Rasmussen's nor her husband's. A search of the area yielded no further evidence. Whether the car had been there for the entire time since the killing has never been determined. Nonetheless, Mayer believed that the location strengthened the burglary theory since burglars were known to live in that area. And listen, who would know that better than Stephanie Lazarus?
I think she left it there with the keys
So
to
someone would
someone would take
steal
it.
Yes.
Like, I know there are a lot of thieves here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just leave it and see if we can get it taken.
Absolutely. I mean, really, it's not a bad plan if you're trying to
No,
get away with
why not?
something. In April, a man arrested after a burglary in progress at another similar condo in Van Nuys, where a stereo was taken, appeared to Mayer to be the prime suspect in this case, but was ruled out when his fingerprints did not match. The suspect burglar, to whom detectives ascribed the crime, remained at large despite a follow-up newspaper story 8 months later and a reward offered by the Rasmussen family. The LAPD, preoccupied with the violence resulting from gang wars and the crack epidemic plaguing the city at the time, was unable to devote much more attention to the case. The Rasmussen said that the detective at Van Nuys' office were often unhelpful when the family called, hanging up or putting them on hold. And that just makes you
Wow.
sick. Like,
Hanging
come
up?
on. You have one job. They just want to know what happened to their daughter.
Yeah.
That's all they want. They want to know that you're still working on it and that she's remembered,
That's
you know?
sad.
Rutan briefly returned to living in the condo, but moved out after a month when it became too much for him psychologically and financially. After taking a leave of absence from Micropolis, he left his job and moved back to live with his parents in San Diego. Lazarus briefly reunited with Rutan on a 1989 Hawaii vacation. He recounted later having seen her on occasion over the next 2 years and occasionally having sex with her. I mean, because why not?
Okay. So, he's got to have a feeling she killed his wife.
Yes.
But you're still gonna go on vacation.
I mean, at this point, aren't you thinking everybody's guilty until proven not guilty? Because I would, especially knowing she stalked his wife, knowing she stalked Sherri.
Yeah. Oh my.
See, so I
What?
told you he wasn't done with her yet.
Ugh.
Yes. Mayor's notes show that Rutan had called him and asked if he was absolutely sure there was no evidence linking Lazarus with his late wife's death. Listen, why are you calling the police and asking that? They obviously have not solved the case. And if you already have a question, then it's probably because you're right. So I guess, hey, have y'all found anything? Okay, so I'm free to go screw her in Colorado. Okay,
Exactly.
thanks. I'll plan my trip. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thanks for everything.
Really? Dude, I can't with this
I
guy.
don't get this guy at all.
It's crazy. But yeah. So in 1991, after moving back to Los Angeles area for another job, Rutan met his second wife. Well,
He needs more women in his life.
this is the thing. At this point, I would definitely cut it off with Stephanie because I wouldn't want my second wife to die if I even had a doubt, an inkling of a doubt in my brain that Stephanie did that to Sherri.
And let me guess, he said nothing to her. Like, well, she'll get it. She didn't the first time, but she's definitely going to get it
Yeah,
this time.
she'll figure it out. She's older now. I don't know what this guy's thinking. So Lazarus
He's not.
he's not, well, he is thinking, but with the wrong head.
Well,
okay. He's thinking with the wrong head. So
jeez.
Lazarus continued working with the LAPD. She also started her own private investigation firm, Unique Investigations. In 1994, after stints at the department's Drug Abuse Renaissance Education, or DARE, and background investigations of new recruits, she was promoted to detective. 3 years later, she married a fellow officer she met while teaching a DARE class in Oregon and adopted a daughter with him, moving back to Simi Valley. He later joined the LAPD as well. At work, she became an instructor at the police academy. For 2 periods during the 1990s, she was assigned to the Van Nuys division, where the records from the original investigation of Sherri Rasmussen's murder were still on file. She had business to attend to.
Of course.
In May of 1995, she was one of 4 uniformed LAPD officers who competed against a team of city firefighters to benefit charities on the last episode of Family Feud, hosted by Richard Dawson. Between her tenures at Van Nuys, she was assigned to the LAPD's Internal Affairs Division for a year. Department records show that in both the background and the internal affairs positions, she designated herself with the thoroughness and tenacity of her investigations. In the late 1990s, after DNA testing had become more prominent and techniques improved, the LAPD formed a new unit that looked through the forensic evidence collected from the department's cold case files to determine whether any had the potential for new leads through DNA testing. Among the evidence seen as likely to do so was that collected from the Rasmussen residence. In 2004, LAPD criminalist Jennifer Francis was able to analyze it. Some of the evidence from the Rasmussen case that might have had the suspect's DNA was missing after the 1993 reinvestigation. See, they let this thing sit way too long. It was an internal job. It was corrupt, and they let Stephanie have way too much power over her own case, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
Way too much. And that needed to stop. The minute her name was brought up, they should have knocked her down and not let her move up or just get rid of her.
I understand you don't want to think one of your own is doing something, which obviously they were doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But come on.
I know. And too many years went through.
When the evidence is pointing directly to that person, no matter who it is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There was a lot of mistakes over decades that, So unusually, she had access to not just the sample, but the entire case file to help her decide which other samples to analyze. Francis's DNA tests on the blood revealed Rasmussen's rare blood subtype that had inaccurately suggested two separate sources for the blood collected at the scene. All of the samples taken came from Rasmussen. She turned instead to the bite swab, which the detective she was working for had noted was missing from the property log, as it was unlikely Rasmussen had bitten herself. I mean, of course not. So calls to the county coroner's office initially found it missing from there too, until she reached the criminalist who had originally collected it. He told her that the samples that were old had not been logged into the sheriff's computer database when it was established. It was found after searching the lab's freezers. So yeah, thank God they found it in the freezers, but at least they found that. So Francis did not find any matches in the combined DNA index system database, but did find that the saliva in it had come from a female, undermining the initial detective's burglary theory. Upon discovering that the biter and likely perpetrator was female and distinct from Rasmussen, she reviewed the case file and came across a report of a third-party female who had allegedly harassed the victim at her job and residence before the murder. She believed this might have been the nurse who was angry over not being promoted. And if you remember, um, Sherri, bless her heart, kind of had two confrontations going on with two women at the time. So she had Stephanie over here over, her husband. And then she had this other nurse that was mad because she didn't get promoted, but Sherri did, and that's her career.
Neither of which was Sherri's fault.
And so Sherri is going through some really rough, trying times in her life over people being jealous of her. And I feel bad that that's the way she spent her last days.
Yeah.
And that's probably why she didn't want to go to work that day. She just wanted some peace, right? And then this
just let me be in my nightgown and robe for just a day.
And it's crazy to me. So Francis asked the detective supervising her if this woman had been investigated, to which he supposedly responded with, "Oh, you mean the LAPD detective?" Whom Francis was unaware of, having overlooked the one vague reference to Lazarus in the file. He said that the woman, a former girlfriend of the victim's husband, was a current LAPD detective, but she's not a part of this. He insisted that the case was simply a burglary, likely committed by a man and woman working together, as the department had long concluded that. So yeah, they've already solved it.
Of course.
And it's not Stephanie Lazarus, so just move on. There's
just
nothing
let that
here to
one
see.
go.
Nothing here to see, so just move on. So they were the crutch to all of this. They let this happen. No other detective would pursue the case, and the evidence went back into the files. On March 2008, Van Nuys homicide detective Jen Nuttall came into work one morning and found a box with 2 case files left on the floor near his desk. One was the Rasmussen killing. Despite resenting the possibility of any unexpected extra work due to the upcoming birth of his first child and the time he would need to take off, Nuttall reviewed the file and found that there was plenty of evidence to possibly solve a cold case, particularly one where the victim seemed particularly undeserving of her fate. He and his partner, Pete Barb, agreed it was not likely that it was a burglary because the DNA test pointed to a female suspect and that they would start from the beginning. Nuttall and Barba looked at the case as a murder in the burglary stage to throw the police off the trail. Many aspects of the crime were improbable for a break-in, especially one committed in daylight. Rasmussen's jewelry box was in plain view atop her dresser and had not been touched. The condo was in the middle of a gated complex surrounded by other units from which burglars would have expected to be easily observed. And I agree with them on that. Like, we're in broad open daylight in the middle of the day. You've got the cleaning lady out. She obviously, think about it, if you're dressed as a police officer, no one's going to question why you're
Well, of
there in
course
the
not.
middle of the day, and they don't think you're there to cause any harm. So, you know,
Well, I don't know. It depends on what they're doing. I mean, it's a nice neighborhood. Sometimes you're like, why are the cops here?
yeah, that's true.
I mean,
It could be how, depending on how often. I'm sure she still went when she went in there. She probably still went, kind of hiding herself a little bit. I'm sure she didn't strut up there and, but she probably didn't feel like anyone would question it either, more than likely.
I guess not. No one really did.
No, nobody did. The front door had an alarm warning and had not been forced open as it might have been if the putative burglars had not expected anyone to be at home. The stack of stereo equipment atop a VCR at the base of the stairs was also inconsistent with the burglary theory. If, as the evidence suggested, the struggle between Rasmussen and her attacker had begun upstairs and then continued downstairs, that stack would have likely been knocked downstairs and scattered as well. It made more sense to assume that it had been stacked afterwards, although a burglar would have fled the scene immediately after the shooting. The forensic reinforced this theory. On a record player atop the stack was a thumb-shaped blood stain. It had no print, suggesting whoever left it was wearing gloves, but the blood was Rasmussen's, suggesting the equipment had been stacked after the struggle and shooting to make the crime look like a botched burglary. From the 4 bound volumes of the murder book, they developed a list of 5 female suspects. Nuttall was taken aback when Rutan told him over the phone that Lazarus was a police officer. By then, Lazarus had been promoted to a higher rank of detective and was working art theft cases as a part of the commercial crimes division. And I mean, of course, they're just going to keep rising her up in the ranks, let's just keep this woman going. The whole time she's one of the biggest criminals. She's a murderer, within the police department. So it makes you wonder, what else was she hiding? Like, it's just compounded. What other things did she get away with? But anyway,
Yeah.
as one of the 2 detectives in the nation's only full-time art theft unit, Lazarus had gained some local media attention when she and her partner had recovered a statue stolen from Carthy Circle. To better understand the field, she told a local newspaper, she had begun learning to paint. Off the job, Lazarus had been active in the Los Angeles Women Police Officers Association and organized childcare for families of officers. Still, the detectives ranked Lazarus as the least promising of the 5 suspects since Rutan said their relationship was over. Nuttall and Barba's investigation soon eliminated all but one of the other women. That one, the nurse Rasmussen had passed over for promotion, was eliminated by a covertly collected DNA sample. With only Lazarus left, they kept their investigation a closely guarded secret. Her husband also worked as a detective in Van Nuys, although he was not personally known to Barbara and Nuttall, and she may have had other friends who could have tipped her off. If she were the killer, she would have improved her defense. If she were not, then they would have unintentionally smeared a fellow officer who had an unblemished service record over the course of her career. And listen, she had a reputation to uphold, knowing that she had committed murder. So, really, people who have a clean record doesn't mean they didn't commit the crime, you know?
Well, I agree with that. And then you have to think all they had to do was say, hey, look, you had been in a relationship with him. We know some things had happened. Can we just um check you out just to say we did?
Yeah, and the thing is, they were afraid if they did that, that she would start stacking her defense, right? Or
Well,
get an
yeah, and I
attorney
get
and then
that,
they
but I
couldn't talk
mean,
to her anymore.
they
I
could just say,
know.
we know you didn't do it, but can we just get this out of the way so that it's in the file? I mean, you can BS your way.
Well, there's a video of when they speak to her, and she was a nervous wreck. It was really worth watching. Y'all need to go check it out. She knew. She knew what was going on. Listen, she's been doing this for a long time.
They could
She
have just
knew.
done it in the beginning and it'd
Yeah,
already be
I
done.
agree.
But years later, of course, she's going to get nervous. I
Absolutely.
would too. I mean, oh, damn, it's back to get me.
Karma time. Yeah. Where's your short shorts now, Stephanie?
I feel like everyone was scared of this woman.
Yes, they were. I'm telling you, she was a manly chick. I mean, she
Well,
was
I
tougher than
mean,
most men, I think.
it worked for her. She got the men, man. They something like something.
There was no record of disciplinary investigations or civilian complaints. They referred to her only as number 5, worked on the case after hours or behind closed doors, and developed cover stories to explain why they wanted to look at personnel records for one particular officer. The detectives began looking into other cases of Lazarus' life during the mid 1980s. Another detective recalled that at that time most LAPD officers had preferred a 38 caliber as their backup or off-duty carry gun, as they were required to purchase only weapons compatible with the federal plus P ammunition used in the murder. State and departmental records showed that Lazarus had owned a Smith & Wesson Model 49 38 caliber at the time. 13 days after the murder, she reported it stolen to Santa Monica police, but not to her own department's armorer as required by law and policy. So kudos, they uncovered that. Okay, and she was trying to CYA, but it came back to haunt her decades later. So, since it had been reported stolen from a near popular pier, they assumed she had thrown the gun into the Pacific Ocean. Without the weapon, DNA would be the only definite way to connect the crime to Lazarus. From their own experience, Nuttall and Barba theorized about how an LAPD officer would commit a murder. It would be better to do it on her day off. Departmental records showed that Lazarus had been off the day Sherri Rasmussen was killed. Officers would know better than that than to use their duty gun, since it would have to be disposed after the crime, and the penalties for losing a duty gun or failing to prevent its theft were severe. Instead, it made sense to use a backup gun such as Lazarus 38 caliber. Last, a working patrol officer would know how to do just enough to make the crime scene look like an uninterrupted burglary to satisfy an overworked detective. Rasmussen's father, Nels, told Nuttall about Lazarus' continued contact with his daughter. This was not recorded in the files, although he had mentioned it repeatedly to Mayer and Hook during the interviews. Realizing that Lazarus was now their prime suspect, the detectives informed their superiors and arranged to discreetly collect a voluntary discarded DNA sample from her, knowing they could do so without having to get a warrant. The latter would have alerted Lazarus that she was under investigation. While off duty, Lazarus discarded a cup from which she had been drinking from at Semi Valley Costco, which other police officers retrieved. A sample taken from it matched the DNA from the bite mark on Sherri Rasmussen. Rob Bubb, the homicide detective supervisor at Van Nuys, began letting his senior officers all the way up to Chief William Bratton know of the case, along with senior prosecutors from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. It was transferred to the Robbery Homicide Division, which handled many of the department's high-profile cases. On the day of the arrest in June 2009, dozens of officers arose before dawn. After being briefed on a search warrant they were told would be executed outside the city, but with few details beyond that, they were assigned to wait near Lazarus' home in Semi Valley and that city's Metrolink station where Lazarus commuted to the city. A short time later, detectives from the RHD, who had been selected for their lack of personnel connection to Lazarus, called her from the lockup at Parker Center, the department's headquarters. Bratton had ordered that location be used since Lazarus would have to surrender her gun and equipment belt in order to enter it, limiting the possibility she might resist violently when she was arrested. Immediately following the interview, as was the plan, or realize that she was the prime suspect. The detectives Greg Starnes and Dan Dramillo told her they had someone in custody who wanted to talk about an art theft. After Lazarus had checked in her gun and entered the interrogation room, they examined that this was really about some loose ends that they were trying to tie up with Rasmussen's case, since her name had come up in the investigation. They claimed that they wanted a private setting because while Rutan was an old boyfriend, Lazarus had long been married to someone else, and they did not want her private life to become the subject of office gossip.
Oh, no.
I mean, she has a reputation, but I do respect them for that, because at this point they just, there's so many things that could go wrong. And although who cares if she's embarrassed, they still have a fellow brother that they work
Yeah,
with
I get it,
that's going
but
to be
it's going to come
embarrassing.
out that she's a murderer. So
Absolutely. I mean, how do you soften that blow?
that's going to become gossip.
Big time, for sure. So Stearns and Dramillo knew that they would have to tread carefully since Lazarus was well aware of police interview techniques and her rights to silence and legal counsel, which she could invoke at any time. They rambled and digressed from the subject at times, sometimes discussing unrelated police business, but eventually came back to Rasmussen. Lazarus claimed to recall little due to the intervening years, but gradually revealed more and more knowledge, including oblique acknowledgments of her visits to Rutan's condo and a specific encounter at Rasmussen's office, until she accused her colleagues of considering her a suspect. The detectives mentioned it was possible that they had DNA evidence from the crime scene and requested DNA samples from Lazarus. Lazarus declined and thereafter left the room. She was walked into the hallway. She was met by officers who placed her under arrest. Once she had been arrested, the police officer teams in Semi Valley began searching Lazarus' home and car. In her house, they found her journal from the mid 1980s with numerous mentions of her love for Rutan and her despondence over their engagement to Rasmussen. It had no mentions of her gun having been stolen. Her computer showed that she had searched the internet for Rutan's name on several occasions during the late 1990s, so she still had the hots for him, for sure, no doubt. Many other LAPD officers were stunned at the idea that Lazarus might have murdered someone. Fellow detectives recalled her as a vivacious and supportive, although some also recalled that her behavior when angry had led some to refer to her as Lazarus behind her back. Now, listen, I'm telling you, this was a manly chick, and they were scared of her.
Everyone is scared of her.
Oh,
Lazarus.
man. A case she had been developing from her art theft work with elder abuse and real estate fraud aspects had to be dropped. The police believed that it was unlikely to be prosecuted successfully if the lead investigator were facing a murder charge. I mean, yeah, I think that was really smart for
That could be a
for
problem.
the prosecutors to drop that shit. They're like, look, we can't bring validity to this case. We're just going to say fuck it.
Okay.
After her arrest, Lazarus was allowed to retire early from the LAPD, which I think is bullshit, but they allowed her to retire. She was held in the Los Angeles County Jail. A bail hearing was not held for almost 6 months. Judge Robert J. Perry surprised both sides when he set the amount at $10 million in cash, well
Wow.
above what the defense had suggested and more than twice what prosecutors had proposed. The case against Lazarus was very strong, he said, and thus she might well be at risk to flee the country or obtain weapons through her husband. Lazarus' lawyer, Mark Overland, said the judge did not understand the case well and contrasted the high figure with the $1 million set for Robert Blake and Phil Spector when they were charged with murder. They were just actors. They didn't take an oath to keep everyone safe on the streets. Okay, there is a difference. You were in a position of power and you took it for granted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Who the fuck is Phil Spector at the end of the day? Okay, I know who he is. He created beautiful music. Robert Blake, he was an actor, but he was not, well, I guess you could say they were wolf in sheep's clothing, but they weren't out there carrying a gun and wielding, a uniform.
Taking the life of the person she was supposed to protect.
Yes. So that shouldn't even mattered. Several months later, her brother claimed she was not receiving adequate treatment for an unspecified cancer while in custody. The trial began in early 2012. In Los Angeles County Superior Court, prosecutors argued that Lazarus' motive for the murder was jealousy. In his opening argument, prosecutor Shannon Presby summed up the case as a bite, a bullet, a gun barrel, and a broken heart. That sounds like a movie and a country song.
Yeah, it does.
That's the evidence that will prove to you that the defendant, Stephanie Lazarus, murdered Sherri Rasmussen. Rutan testified, weeping several times. He admitted that having sex with Lazarus after he was engaged to Rasmussen was a mistake. Dude, God.
Was it?
I mean, how many years did it take you to figure that out? I mean, you couldn't have. Listen.
Plus, he's been sleeping with her after the fact.
Took trips after his wife was murdered? I mean, come on.
This man.
Wow.
Jeez.
In cross-examination, the detectives and other technicians who had originally investigated the killing, Overland stressed the original burglary theory and pointed to the evidence such as a similar burglary that happened shortly thereafter that he claimed supported it. He also highlighted evidence that was not analyzed, such as a bloody fingerprint on one of the walls to suggest that other suspects had not been adequately excluded from consideration. He questioned whether it would be inferred that the weapon used was Lazarus' lost gun, as a .38 caliber were in wide use. Since the DNA from the bite mark was central to the prosecution's case, he attacked it vigorously, pointing to improper storage procedures and a hole the tube had left in an envelope that he said could have allowed Lazarus' DNA to be added to it later. Both prosecution and defense reiterated their themes in closing arguments. After showing the jury of 8 women and 4 men photographs of a beaten, bloodied Rasmussen, prosecutor Paul Nunez told them it wasn't a fair fight. This was prey caught in a cage with a predator. Overland dismissed the entire case as circumstantial fluff and fill, saved for the compromised bite mark DNA sample. He moved for a mistrial after Nunez reminded the jurors that Lazarus had provided no alibi for the time of the murder, since defendants' refusal to testify cannot be held against them. Perry denied this motion, saying he did not take Nunez's statement as directly suggesting Lazarus had refused to testify and thus her Fifth Amendment right against her self-incrimination had not been violated. In March, after several days of deliberations, the jury convicted Lazarus of first-degree murder. Later that month, she was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. As of 2025, Lazarus is serving her sentence at the California Institution for Women in Corona.
Do they allow John to come visit her? Because you know he is.
I'm sure. And do they have conjugal visits there? Because I'm sure that goes on too.
Of course. What other visit would he be going for?
At Lazarus' initial suitability parole hearing in November 2023, she admitted to the murder. It makes me sick to this day that I took an oath to protect and serve people, and I took Sherri Rasmussen's life from her, a nurse. Please, lady. Oh my gosh.
Well, you didn't care until you got caught.
It should make you sick to your stomach. So after the panel hearing, her bid recommended parole and ordered a hearing to reconsider the evidence against her. Governor Gavin Newsom asked the full board to review the grant. The full board heard testimony supporting her bid from justice reform advocates, among them former inmates who served time with Lazarus. They pointed to her relative youth at the time of the crime and her exemplary behavior in prison, helping other inmates rebuild their lives. I saw many women who talked a big talk about giving back to the community. Stephanie actually accomplished it. Yeah, but she took so much from the community when she killed Sherri. So it doesn't count, bitch. Okay? I'm sorry. Like, what the hell?
Well, she was just so young and in love. She's helped people since then. Let's just let her go.
Let's just call it even. No, we don't call that even. Okay? No. And we're not going to accept it. In opposition, it heard from Rutan and some Rasmussen's sisters about the continuing pain the crime had caused them. Rather than the act of an impulsive, love-struck young woman, they said the murder's planning and execution, including the subsequent cover-up, was a calculated act that drew on Lazarus' training and experience as a police officer. Knowledge, they said, she was still attempting to use to her advantage. After recounting the links of Lazarus did in preparing the crime, including making an improvised silencer for her gun and covering it up afterwards, LAPD Detective Stern said, "Those are not the hallmarks of youthful offense. They are the hallmarks of criminal sophistication and maturity." And absolutely agree with that. And she used all of her knowledge for bad, not for good. Rutan, who declined to use Lazarus' name, was unimpressed by her confession several months earlier, saying she had only done it in order to be paroled. She had 23 years to lie and to hide the evidence and to go on with her life when she could have turned herself in, agreed one of the Rasmussen's nieces. A video Nels Rasmussen had recorded prior to his 2020 death for any possible future Lazarus parole hearings was played. "If one looks at the damage that she did to my daughter's face," he said, "it's almost like she wanted to destroy the beauty that Sherri exuded." After a recession hearing, the grant was rescinded in October of 2024. Another request in 2025 was denied. Parole Board Commissioner Kevin Chappell cited discrepancies between Lazarus' 2023 account of how she killed Rasmussen and the evidence. The minimal amount of Lazarus DNA found, he said, suggested that the prolonged struggle she described had not occurred. You were the only one engaged in this extreme account of violence, he told her. Lazarus had also claimed that her gun had fallen out of a fanny pack during the struggle. Presby, the prosecutor, said that, too, was not likely. I mean, a fanny pack? I mean, I've never seen a cop wear a fanny pack. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little awkward to put a gun in a fanny pack anyway.
I mean, it'd be heavy and just, it wouldn't even fit right. Like, I don't know. Maybe she wasn't wearing her uniform.
I think it would pull the fanny pack off. It wouldn't
and
fall
your britches.
Those little shorty shorts would.
Maybe she's wearing her shorty shorts that day. God. Maybe because I
fell out of my fanny pack.
Yeah, right. I was picturing her in a uniform, but it was her day off, and I had forgotten that detail. So
she likes her shorty shorts and fanny packs. So there you go.
Man,
fanny
pack. That's a sight that I never wanted to see or even think about. But anyway, Lazarus will again be eligible for parole in 2028. Under special circumstances, she could apply again before then. So, yeah, listen.
She had enough free time.
Yes.
She needs to be away.
She needs to just say, you know what? It was a good run. I'm done. But you know, the saddest part about this to me is the fact that Sherri's dad on his deathbed prepared speeches for every single time that Stephanie Lazarus goes before a parole board.
That's sad.
To try to keep her off the streets. And no one should have to do that.
No.
Number one, no one should have to bury their children. But then also to have to think about that is something he took to his grave, is his daughter's death. And that's so sad to me.
Yeah.
But Stephanie's where she belongs. I hope she lives to be 102. I really do. You know, and if she does good in prison and she helps her fellow man and all of that, good. She needs to try to redeem herself here on earth.
But you still have to take responsibility for what you did. Take the consequences. You chose to do it.
Absolutely. And as far as John, I just hope somewhere along the way, and I'm sorry, I understand his grief. But I hope somewhere along the way he learned some really true lessons in life.
I do too.
On this, because he really played some dangerous games. And in the end, he lost one of his biggest assets, probably, that he would ever have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, guys, what do you think about the story? I know a lot of people know about it. People still fume over this story. I know it's extremely popular in the true crime community. But listen, bravo to the new investigators that stepped up to the plate and solved this cold case crime and brought justice to Sherri Rasmussen's name. She deserved it.
Yeah.
I think that she would have gone really far in life and would have had beautiful children and probably a beautiful life. But we will never know that because of Stephanie Lazarus. But let's stop saying her name. Rest in peace, Sherri. And until our next episode, guys, remember to see the good
and stay imperfectly perfect. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.